Welcome back to FlatsClass YouTube, everybody. Captain CA here. Today's lesson is going to be how you're going to catch one of these guys right here on artificial lures. That's right. I'm going to give you some of my top baits that you can take to the beach, take to the flat, take to the bridges, and catch tarpon. Let's go. All right, you're probably wondering, what lures are we going to talk about? Well, there are just a wide array of artificials that avid tarpon anglers swing to: strings of tarpon, laid up single tarpon, daisy chaining tarpon, rolling tarpon, and there's a bunch of them that work, but I'm just going to talk about the ones that work best for me. So we're going to talk about these 10 that are in this picture right here. Okay, so let's talk about the shallow ones first, the flats and the beaches. And I'm talking water that could be anywhere as shallow as 3 to 4 feet or as deep as maybe 10 or 12 feet, but the fish seem to stay high. When the fish are high like that in the water column, there's a couple baits I like to use. If I'm over grass and it's early, not midday or anything like that, I will use the Mirrolure Catch 2000, okay? The Catch 2000 is a suspending bait. You hear me talk about this bait for big speckled trout, for snook, and you kind of subwalk it. That's not the way you fish it here for tarpon. You're going to just pull this bait through the water. So your rod's going to be at 10, 10:30, and you're just going to reel. That's all you're going to do. You're going to lay it out in front of a group of tarpon that are going by, well in front of them, 25, 30, 40 feet across their line, and then reel it back so that they intercept this at some point. So it's got to be real and smooth. It can't be darting around. They will not like that. As far as the hardware on this, I take the treble hooks off, the factory trebs off, and I put the Lone Diablo single inlines on my Purple Demon. Why do I do that? First of all, you do not want to deal with a tarpon boat side that has treble hooks in it. I don't care how big they are. I find that these are probably the sharpest inlines I can find are these. And they have heavy wire on them, which requires you to change these split rings that they're attached to. So I'm using number 5. These are the Owner Hyper Split Rings. They're about 60 pound strength. At that point, if you've got more than 60 pounds of pressure, there's a whole lot of things going wrong with this lure. I like to run a 1/0 in the front and a 2/0 in the back because I'm constantly pulling it in the water. So I can get away with that 2/0 in the back. And generally speaking, you only hook them on one of these hooks. So that's typically the way it goes. This is a really effective low light bait for me. I do a lot of damage with it. So this one works extremely well. Another shallow bait that works really fantastic for me. I find myself always throwing, especially if I'm on the beach, and that is going to be the 5-inch. This is the Z-Man Scented Jerk Shad, okay? This happens to be the right stuff color. Purple Demon works great. Pearl Blue Glimmer works great. Green Lantern works great. And there's a variety of ways you can rig this. You could rig it on a jig head. You could rig it on a belly-weighted EWG, long as it's a heavy enough wire hook. The Z-Man chin locks, those are pretty stout hooks that are on the chin locks. It has a nice keeper on those, and they come in 5 and 6/0 sizes. I usually use that 1/6 of an ounce where I can just make a cast, because I'm using lighter gear when I'm throwing artificials. I'm not using the same gear that we talked about last week with that live bait ultimate setup. I'm doing this generally with gear where we're throwing 4, 5, and 6,000 size reels for shallow water fish. So That would definitely be number 2, would be the Z-Man jerk shad. Now, number 3, and this is kind of a hybrid thing, but I would definitely call it more of my shallow bait, would probably be the Z-Man darters. So the Z-Man darters is a pinfish ballyhoo look, okay? I use this bait a lot for cobia fishing. I use it a ton for snook fishing. It works great in those two. It's a 6-inch bait. It's segmented, so it has tons of action. I'm trying not to create that action by darting it around. I'm just reeling it, but it has kind of a slow serpentine swim. Now the jig head that I prefer on this, believe it or not, it's made by Untamed Tackle. It's their Scout jig. Do you see how the line tie is built in the jig head itself? It really does cut down the weed action on this bait quite a bit. Has that upswung 30-degree angle, so it's easy to pull straight. It's probably one of my favorite jigs for this style of fishing. So this would definitely make one of my top inshore baits. I love the Houdini color. I love the smelt color in this. And believe it or not, I like the beer run color in this on those bright sunny days over the flats. They work really well. All right, next we're going to talk about this one. This is another soft plastic, and this is the Z-Man kicker crab, okay? I've got it rigged on the same type of hook. That's that Untamed Tackle. That's their Scout hook. And I'll buy the Scout hooks in any size from 1/4 all the way up to half. Most of these are 1/4 and 3/8 that I like to use. They got a really sharp hook. It's a high quality piece of tackle. I really like this jig head. When I have crab flushes on the outgoing in some of these shallower passes and I see the fish kind of rolling in there and I know they're coming up and slurping crabs here and there. So it's one of those baits that you could use on the beach close to an inlet or a pass. You could use it at bridges in the intercoastal where you see tarpon too that are taking crabs. The tough part about this is you got to reel it along at the same speed of the tide because there's lots of grass and stuff floating in the water. But that little paddle leg just kind of kicks out there behind it. And if you can reel it right on the surface where it's just making that little rattle as it comes along there, and they're sucking those crabs off the top of the surface, this can be a killer bait for you. So the Z-Man kicker crabs would definitely be in that shallow hybrid type situation. Another one that I like to use at night in some of the lights, and that could be dock lights, that could be bridge lights, that could be fender lights that I've had a lot of success with. This is the Z-Man Easy Shrimp. I usually put like a bullet weight on the front of this rig. I've got a 4 and sometimes a 5/0 circle hook that I kind of rig through the nose and out the belly. If you take a look at that. This bait again, when you reel it or let it slide with current, it will just kind of slide and that tail kind of undulates just like a shrimp coming through the lights. This is the Dude color. I also like the glow colors quite a bit. Or the Greasy Prawn is another great color. I fish this on about 40-pound fluorocarbon coming through the lights, and you will catch your share of other fish doing this. You're going to catch, trout and snook and whatever else that comes through there because everything eats a shrimp. But if you can see the tarpon where you can sight fish them with this, it's amazing. It's like fly fishing, honestly, because the flies are like this size. You can take them on that little shrimp. Now, you can buy whatever shrimp you want. You don't have to buy that one. If you want to buy a DOA, I've had a lot of luck with DOA, then buy a DOA one. It will work. The number one game is it works. Those shrimp baits work. All right, moving along with the shallow water stuff, I'm going to say probably this one right here. Now, this is the Mulletron LT 4.5. You're not going to use this hook. You're going to use a 5/0 owner circle hook. You're going to pull this one out and you're going to find one that has the same wire thickness and the same like hook eye size that will snap right back into that harness. But I use, and I've got one rigged up on a rod over there, I use a 5/0 circle hook for this particular bait. If you're on the beach or you're fishing low light over grass or anything like that, All you have to do is make long casts with this. Lots of cloudy days with clients that I have, and we're not really seeing fish, but we know they're there because you're like, dang, there goes one, he went right by us. We make long casts with this bait and we just reel it back. It runs about a foot underneath the surface and you're just swimming it. And it is amazing what you will catch on this during tarpon season. It's a pretty good bait and a default bait of mine. And I've used it for everything, but the tarpon fishing with this bait is just, it's lights out good. Now, let's talk about some of these baits that are a little bit bigger and you can fish in a little faster water, like this one here. This is a Mag Swims from Z-Man. This is a big bait. It's like a 7-8 inch bait. Definitely 8-inch bait. I've got it on a huge 10-aught. This is a 1/2 ounce chin locks. It works great. I use this also for inshore grouper. I use it for big snook in inlets and passes. Has much of that ladyfish-like look. So sometimes you'll be at a bridge scenario at first light, or you'll be there in the middle of the night and you'll see the tarpon rolling in the bridge lights or the fender lights. If you swim this ladyfish looking bait through there, if you don't catch a tarpon, you're probably going to catch one hell of a big snook on it. It's a fantastic bait. I like it for that deeper stuff. It just has a little bit too much action for the shallow water stuff, but faster current and just those low light scenarios, this works great. Another one, same type of genre of family, where you're trying to maybe fish murkier water, maybe fish a little bit deeper because you're marking them on your ray marine. You can see down there on your side vision or your down vision, you're like, oh wow, there's a bunch of tarpon between these two pilings here. Drift through, get to the other side, throw up current, and throw this bad boy. This is the Z-Man Heroes, okay? I've had some days where you hook so many fish on this bait. Now you have to run it with that huge diesel eye style jig head. You can see how the line tie is more like a 90-degree line tie. It's up top. That's to allow it to get deeper. I fish this in heavier current, deeper fish. It's got a hook that will not bend. If you hook a tarpon on this, you are definitely going to need a heavier setup to drive that hook through. But this has got to be one of not only my go-to. If you're a hoagie guy, you're going to want to throw this. You're just going to want to throw this. It's a great nighttime bait. It's a great dirty water bait, stormy day bait, afternoon, sea breeze, water's all churned up on a hard out going. This is a great bait to throw. Do not think, oh my God, I'm going to throw this and I'm going to wear myself out. You will wear yourself out, but I promise you, you will catch a big honking tarpon on that one. Another thing that I like to do, this is more for fishing along dock lines and where you're seeing the reds and the snook around the fenders and through the pilings at night at intercoastal bridges. And that is this is the 6.0 or the 6.0 6-inch line through Mullotron. Again, you can switch out the hook, but this hook is big enough, but I would switch it out to more of a 7/0 size circle hook. I find that the best. That way I can sweep into the fish and reel as tight as I can and bring that rod up high and give him one good jab. And then when he jumps, be able to lean forward. I love this bait, and I've caught everything on it. It, again, floats shallower than you think, so it will run about 1.5 feet, 2 foot under the surface. But if you're throwing bridge light lines and things like that, any low light situation, even if you are on the beach in a little bit faster water, closer to an inlet, and you're throwing this, you will catch tarpon on this bait. I promise you, it's just one of those baits. Now the last one is this guy. This is a simple bait. This is the 5-inch diesel minnow. You're like, well, you know, sometimes I like to throw 4s and stuff. 4s get lost. This has a big paddle tail on it. You can head weight it really well. Lots of times we'll come right up the pilings on bridges and throw this against the piling and let it fall straight down the piling to the bottom and take the boat out of gear and back up and just let the tide take us back and reel this thing back and it will get whacked. It is a great bait. I do like it in this purple demon color, probably the best. But if you'll put another diesel eye type jig head in this, in the smaller size, I'm going to say 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce, you will love, 1/2 ounce is probably best. You will love throwing this around that. You can also swim it down bridge fenders and things like that. And you will catch just about every snook and every tarpon in there throwing that bait. So let's review now. If you throw these baits, and it doesn't matter if you pick another brand, you know, the Hoagie brand or the DOA brand, because they make a great shrimp, they make a great bait buster at DOA. Hoagie makes a great, you know, long-tailed worm, you know, eel style bait. If you take these ideas and take them to the water and give them a chance with the right balanced tackle, you will be able to hook up with a tarpon. I promise you, you'll be able to hook up with a tarpon this summer. It's the only way I fish now. Occasionally, I'll get talked into throwing some live bait here and there, but there are so many people doing it, and I try to stay. I'm that weird guy between the fly guys and the live bait guys. I like to kind of just play a different zone that kind of is edgy between both of them, and it seems like it works for me. Do I have those nights or those days where we make 500 casts and don't catch anything? Of course we do. Everyone does. You can ask any really good fly angler that wouldn't lie to you, or even a live bait guy. It happens. But, you know, when it's on for them, it's on for you with these, and I trust me when I tell you, they work. Now, if you go over to FlatsClassUniversity.com and check out some of the setups that we throw with these baits, you'd be surprised on what I'm going to say over there. And also you'd be surprised because there's another 6 baits that I like to throw that are much smaller when we're sight fishing tarpon, especially on the beach and especially over grass, that work really well. But I leave that for my members only group. Okay, if you're learning stuff here, you enjoy these types of videos, and you want to catch tarpon like these, hey, come here each and every week. We're here 7 days a week dropping knowledge, I promise you. It's something I enjoy doing, and I enjoy sharing it with our YouTube audience. And hopefully, if you like it, you'll subscribe, and you'll give us the thumbs up and share it with your friends. All right, until next time, you guys keep those rods bent, and I'll keep those videos coming.